She is already on her knees when the gates open. The Hippodrome of Constantinople. Summer year 537. Midday heat pressing down like a hand. The sky above is empty and hard. No clouds, no shade, no mercy. Stone seats rise all around her like a wall of faces. 50,000 people are packed into those seats. Some are standing, some are leaning forward. All of them are looking at one point. Her, Mariana, 23 years old, born into one of the noblest blue families in Constantinople, now kneeling alone in the center of the arena. Her wrists are bound in front of her with iron. Her ankles are shackled so tight she cannot stand, cannot turn. The chain between her feet is 30 centimeters long. It forces her into one posture, low, exposed, on display. She can feel the sand burning through the skin on her knees and palms. She has been here long enough that the pain no longer feels sharp. It feels distant, like it belongs to someone else. The noise around her never stops. People shout to each other, laugh, argue. They are not talking about races. There are no chariots on the track today. They are talking about her, guessing what will happen, betting on how long she will last, trading rumors about what she did to deserve this. Mariana does not know what they have been told. She was not given charges. She was not given a sentence. All she was told was to kneel and not move. Then the sound changes. Behind her, metal scrapes against stone. A heavy gate slides open. Voices shout commands she cannot make out. There is the clatter of hooves on solid ground. Then the dull thud of those hooves hitting sand. The crowd reacts instantly. The noise rises like a wave. Rough, excited, hungry. Mariana twists as far as the chain allows. She cannot turn fully. She can only see out of the corner of her eye. Dust, movement, something large and dark. Then she hears it breathe. Low, rough, close. A bull. They have brought a bull into the arena, and they are driving it toward her. This is not a random cruelty. This is not a simple execution. This is a staged moment, a message. And this is still not the worst part. To understand why Mariana is here, you have to go back 6 months earlier to a life that looked nothing like this. Mariana was born in the year 514, 3 years before Justinian became emperor. Her father was Marcus Alexandros, one of the wealthiest merchants in Constantinople and a leader in the Blue faction. Her mother was Sophia, a woman known for her intelligence and kindness. She died when Mariana was 12, a fever that came in winter and never left. After that, Mariana grew close to her father. He taught her to read Greek and Latin. He taught her about the city's politics. He told her the Blues were not just a chariot team. They were a way of life, a promise of loyalty that kept families safe. Her older brother Demetrius was different. 5 years older, he was cold where their father was warm, calculating where Mariana was curious. He saw the faction system as business. Mariana saw it as identity. They lived in a villa near the Hippodrome, close enough that Mariana could hear the crowd on race days, the roar when a chariot took the lead, the groan when one crashed. She grew up with those sounds. They were as familiar as her own heartbeat. Constantinople in those years was a city divided, not by walls but by colors, blue and green. Originally, these were the teams that raced chariots. Over time, they became something much more. Political parties, street gangs, religious pressure groups, private armies. If you were born into a blue family, you expected to live and die blue. Your children would be blue, your grandchildren. The same for green. The factions had their own leaders, their own meeting halls, their own ways of enforcing discipline. They could organize quickly. They could fight in the streets. They could turn a crowd into a weapon. The Hippodrome was where this loyalty became visible. Blue sat on one side, green sat on the other. You wore your colors, you cheered for your team, you joined in the chants. If you stayed silent, people noticed. If you cheered at the wrong time, people noticed. And when the emperor looked down from his box, the kathisma, high above the track, he saw more than chariots. He saw a map of his city's loyalties. He saw who might support him, who might resist, who might be persuaded or punished. Marcus Alexandros taught Mariana this when she was young. He said the factions gave emperors a powerful tool. Promise favor to one side, threaten the other, play them against each other so they never unite. Most of the time, this balance held. But Mariana would learn what happened when it broke. In the spring of 536, when Mariana was 22, she went to the market near the harbor. She needed fabric for a new dress. Blue silk, of course, always blue. The merchant she usually visited was not there. His stall was closed. The man next to it said he had fallen sick. He pointed to another stall across the square. That is where she met Alexios. He was 26, tall, dark hair that fell into his eyes when he leaned over his work. He was sketching something on parchment, architectural plans. He looked up when she approached. He did not know who she was. She did not know who he was. They talked about fabric, then about the design he was drawing. He was an architect. He was working on the expansion of the Hagia Sophia, the great church Justinian was rebuilding after it burned in the Nika riots 4 years earlier. Mariana asked to see his sketches. He showed her. His hands were stained with ink and charcoal. He explained how the dome would sit on pendentives, how the light would pour through windows arranged in a circle. She forgot about the fabric. They met again 3 days later, not by accident. He asked if she wanted to see the construction site. She said yes. Over the next 8 months, they met in secret, always in places where their faction colors would not be obvious. Markets where everyone wore plain clothes. Gardens where no one paid attention. The construction site at dawn before workers arrived. Mariana knew what her family would say, knew what the faction would do. But when she was with Alexios, the city's divisions felt small, artificial, like walls built on nothing. He told her once love should not have colors. She wanted to believe him, but Constantinople did not work that way. In March of 537, Mariana overheard something she was not supposed to hear. Her brother Demetrius was in the villa's main hall. He was meeting with 3 men she did not recognize. Blue faction enforcers, the kind of men who solved problems quietly. She was in the corridor outside. She stopped when she heard them mention the Hagia Sophia project. Demetrius was angry. He said green architects had too much influence on the construction. They were being paid too well, given too much credit. It made the blues look weak. One of the enforcers asked what he wanted done. Demetrius said they needed to remove the most prominent green architect, make it look like treason, plant stolen imperial documents in his house, report him to the authorities. The man would be arrested, executed. Problem solved. The enforcer asked for the name. Demetrius said it. Alexios. Mariana felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. She waited until the men left. Then she confronted her brother. She found him in the courtyard. She did not waste time. She told him she had heard everything. She told him Alexios was innocent. She told him this was murder disguised as politics. Demetrius looked at her like she was a stranger. He said Alexios was green. That meant he did not matter. That meant he was expendable. He asked if Mariana understood how the city worked, how power worked. She said she understood perfectly. That was why she could not let it happen. Demetrius stepped closer. His voice dropped. He said if she interfered, she would destroy herself, destroy their family, their father's legacy. Mariana said their father would never have done this. Demetrius's face twisted. He said their father had discovered her meetings with the Green. The shame had been killing him for weeks. The heart failure 2 months ago was just the final blow. She had been too lost in her secret life to notice how much weight he had been losing, how pale he had become. The words hit Mariana like a fist. Her father had died, and she had not been there. Demetrius saw her waver. He pressed. He said the family needed her loyalty now more than ever. He said Alexios was not worth what she would lose. Mariana looked at her brother, at the man who shared her blood but not her heart. She said she was going to warn Alexios, and Demetrius could not stop her. She left the villa that night. She went to Alexios's workshop near the construction site. It was late. The streets were empty except for a few drunks and beggars. She knocked on his door. He opened it. Surprised to see her at this hour, she told him everything. The plan, the planted documents, the arrest that would come in days if he did not leave. Alexios listened. His face went pale, but he did not panic. He said running would make him look guilty. He said he would go to the authorities himself, explain, clear his name. Mariana grabbed his arm. She said the authorities were blue. They would not listen. They would not care. Alexios pulled her close. He said he could not live as a fugitive, could not abandon his work, could not leave her. She was about to argue when the door slammed open behind them. Guards, 6 of them. Blue armbands, swords drawn, behind them Demetrius. Mariana tried to step in front of Alexios. One of the guards shoved her aside. She fell hard against the wall. Alexios shouted, "Move toward her." A guard hit him across the face with the hilt of a sword. He dropped. They dragged him out, blood streaming from his nose and mouth. He tried to look back at Mariana. She screamed his name. Demetrius walked over to her. His face showed nothing, no anger, no regret, just cold certainty. He said she had made her choice. Now she would face the consequences. He said their father had not died of simple heart failure. He had died of shame when he learned his daughter was sleeping with a green, that she had betrayed everything he built. Mariana stared at him. She said that was a lie. It had to be. Demetrius leaned down. He said, believe what she wanted, but she would never know for sure. That uncertainty would eat at her for whatever time she had left. Then he nodded to the guards. They grabbed Mariana, pulled her to her feet, shackled her wrists. She asked where they were taking her. No one answered. They took her through the streets, down into tunnels she had never seen, beneath the Hippodrome, into the network of corridors and cells that existed below the arena floor. The cells were small, dark, damp. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. The air smelled of mold and old blood. They threw her into one of the cells and locked the door. The sound of the lock echoed, then silence. Mariana sat on the stone floor. Her mind raced. Alexios was arrested. Her father was dead. Her brother had betrayed her. Everything she had known was gone. She did not know yet that this was only the beginning. The first day in the cell, no one came except a guard who shoved bread and water through a slot in the door. The bread was hard enough to hurt her teeth. The water tasted like rust. Above her, she could hear sounds, footsteps, voices, the rumble of crowds on race days. The Hippodrome was directly above. Life continued. People cheered. People bet. People lived. And she was buried beneath them. On the second day, she heard a voice from the cell next to hers. A woman, older. Her voice rough, like she had spent years shouting or screaming. The woman asked if Mariana was noble-born. Mariana said yes. Blue faction. The woman laughed. It was not a kind sound. She said her name was Anna. She was 58 years old. She had been in and out of these cells for 5 years. Mariana asked what her crime was. Anna said her husband had been a green merchant. Not a rebel, not a criminal. Just a man who donated money to his faction. But in the year 532, that had been enough. Mariana felt her chest tighten. The year 532. The Nika riots. Anna said Mariana was too young to remember. But she would learn. Everyone in these cells learned the same lesson eventually. The Hippodrome was not just an arena, it was a machine, and it ran on fear. Anna told her story slowly, over hours, over days, her voice drifting through the stone wall between them. She said in January of 532, the Blues and Greens had done something that almost never happened. They united. Both factions were angry. Taxes were crushing them. Religious conflicts were tearing the city apart. Corrupt officials were bleeding them dry. For once, they stopped fighting each other. They turned their anger on the emperor, on Justinian. On January 13th, the Hippodrome was packed for races. 50,000 people, maybe more. The chariots were ready. The drivers stood by. None of it mattered. The crowd turned away from the starting gates. They turned toward the imperial box high above the track, where Justinian sat with his court, and they chanted, Nika, victory, not victory on the track, victory over the man in the purple robes. They chanted for hours. They demanded he dismiss corrupt officials, lower taxes, stop the religious persecutions. Justinian sent officials to negotiate. The crowd shouted them down, forced them to retreat. The riots spread into the streets. Government buildings burned. Officials were dragged from their homes. For 5 days, Constantinople was on fire. The Blues and Greens declared a new emperor, Hypatius, Justinian's own nephew. Justinian panicked. He prepared to flee, to abandon the city, but his empress stopped him. Theodora, Anna said Theodora gave a speech that would be remembered forever. She told Justinian that those who have worn the crown should never survive its loss. That purple makes the finest burial shroud. That she would rather die an empress than live in exile as nothing. Justinian listened, and he made his choice. On January 18th, the Hippodrome was packed again. The crowd thought they had won. They were celebrating, chanting Hypatius's name. Justinian ordered the gates sealed, every exit, every passageway, locked. The crowd did not realize at first. Then slowly the chanting faltered. People tried to leave, found the gates barred. Confusion spread, then panic. They were trapped. Justinian summoned Belisarius, his best general, the man who would later conquer kingdoms. That day his target was inside the capital. Belisarius entered through passages beneath the arena. He brought 3,000 soldiers, heavy infantry, shields, short swords, spears, no archers, no distance weapons. What was about to happen would be close. The soldiers formed a line across the arena floor. Then they began to move up into the stands. The people trapped inside had no weapons, no armor, no training. Most had come expecting races, a day out. Not this. As the soldiers advanced, some tried to fight with bare hands. Some tried to climb the walls. Some tried to break through the locked gates. They failed, row by row, section by section. The soldiers moved with methodical focus. They were not there to scare. They were not there to injure. They were there to kill. By nightfall, somewhere between 25,000 and 35,000 people were dead. The Hippodrome became a mass grave. Anna's voice went quiet for a long time after she said that number. When she spoke again, there were tears in it. She said she had been there, in the stands, with her husband, with their 3 children. Her husband had donated money to the Greens. Not much, enough to be noticed. When the soldiers came, they had a list. They were looking for specific people. Her husband was on it. They pulled him aside. They did not kill him then. They saved him for later. For something more public. They pulled Anna aside too, and 72 other women, wives and daughters of men who had spoken too loudly, who had stood in the wrong place at the wrong time. They kept them in these cells, the same cells where Mariana now sat. For 4 days, no proper beds, no privacy, little food, less water. By the time they were brought up, they were weak. That was intentional. The Hippodrome reopened. The bodies had been cleared. The blood washed away with buckets of water that turned the sand dark. The crowd that day was smaller. 10,000, carefully selected, loyal, influential, people who would repeat what they saw. The 73 women were marched out through the gates. 4 days earlier, many of them had been in those same stands, wearing fine clothes, sitting in expensive seats. Now they wore rough sackcloth. Their hair had been hacked short or shaved. Their faces were bruised, their eyes red from lack of sleep. They were paraded around the track, guards on either side. A herald announced their names and crimes: supporting treason, encouraging rebellion, failing in proper obedience. The crowd was urged to respond. They shouted insults, threw rotten food, clouds of dirt, whatever could sting without leaving permanent marks. The women were forced to complete the entire circuit, 400 meters. If any fell, they were pulled back to their feet, dragged if necessary. They were not allowed to shield their faces, not allowed to speak, not allowed to look away. At the end, they were brought to the center and made to kneel. Their sentences were read: exile, confiscation of property, loss of status. They lived. But the people in the stands did not remember them as living. They remembered them as examples. Anna said she was number 47. She knelt in that sand. She felt the heat burning through her knees, just like Mariana was feeling it now. She heard the insults, the laughter, the hatred from people who days earlier had smiled at her in the market. Her children were taken by the state. She never saw them again. Her husband was executed 2 days later. She was sent to a convent in the far north. She escaped after a year, came back to Constantinople, lived as a beggar. She said she came back because she could not stay away. This city had destroyed her, but it was still her home. She was arrested again last week for stealing bread. They threw her back in these cells. She said they let her live so she could be a warning. Every person who saw her begging remembered what happened, remembered the hippodrome, remembered the price of disobedience. Anna told Mariana all of this through the stone wall, her voice sometimes strong, sometimes breaking. She said the worst part was not the pain, not the hunger or the heat or the humiliation. The worst part was knowing that 50,000 people watched, and not one of them helped. Mariana listened, her hands pressed against the cold stone, tears running down her face. She asked Anna what happened to Hypatius, the man declared emperor. Anna said they blinded him first, in the hippodrome, in front of the survivors. They wanted to make sure everyone understood. Even if you wear the crown for 5 days, even if thousands chant your name, the emperor's power is absolute. Hypatius was led into the arena, still wearing the purple robes the rebels had given him. A mockery now. The crowd was silent. Those who had survived the massacre, those who had lost family members. They brought heated irons. They held them close to his eyes. Hypatius screamed. The crowd watched. Anna said she would never forget that sound, or the smell, or the way he stumbled when they led him away afterward. He was executed the next day. But the blinding came first. The message came first. Mariana sat in her cell and absorbed these stories. Day after day, Anna's voice. Other prisoners too. Whispers in the dark. Stories of people dragged behind chariots. Slow circuits around the track. Bodies shredded by sand and stone. Stories of public degradations. Nobles forced to bark like dogs. Made to eat filth. Dressed in enemy colors to mock their own families. Stories of executions designed not for efficiency but for spectacle. For maximum visibility. For lasting impact. The hippodrome was a machine, and everyone who passed through these cells was fuel for it. On the 5th night Demetrius visited, Mariana heard the guards unlock her door. She looked up, expected another interrogation, another threat. Instead, her brother walked in. He carried a small lamp, a cup of wine, fresh bread. He set them down on the floor near her. Like offerings, he said their father was dead, heart failure when he heard what she had done. Mariana said he was lying. He had already told her that lie once. Demetrius shrugged. He said believe what she wanted. But the funeral had been 3 days ago. She had not been there. He said tomorrow she would understand something. The hippodrome did not just kill bodies. It killed futures. It killed names. It killed the possibility of being remembered as anything other than a warning. Mariana asked about Alexios. Demetrius looked at her. Something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction, maybe. He said Alexios had confessed under torture, named her as a co-conspirator, said she had been helping him steal imperial secrets for months. It was all lies, of course, but the confession was on record now, signed, sealed. Alexios had been executed 2 days ago, buried in a common grave outside the city walls. Mariana felt something break inside her chest, a physical sensation, like a bone snapping. She lunged at her brother, got maybe 2 steps before the chains caught her, yanked her back. She fell hard on the stone. Demetrius did not move. He just watched. He said she should eat, drink, get some strength. Tomorrow would be difficult. Then he left. Mariana did not touch the food. She sat in the dark, hands pressed to her face. Alexios was dead. Her father was dead. Everything was gone. She thought about her mother. Dead when Mariana was 12. She thought about how her mother used to sing to her at night, old songs in Greek, about heroes and keys and love that lasted beyond death. She thought about Alexios showing her his sketches, his hands stained with ink, his eyes bright when he talked about how light would fill the Hagia Sophia's dome. She thought about her father teaching her to read, telling her the blues were her family, her safety, her future. All of it was ash now. She spent the night remembering, because soon even the memories would be taken, twisted, rewritten. The hippodrome would tell her story for her, and it would not be true, but it would be the only version that mattered. When morning came, the guards opened her cell. They pulled her out, took her to a preparation room she had not seen before. They stripped her, washed her roughly with cold water, dressed her in a plain white tunic, the kind prisoners wore, the kind designed to show humility, purity mocking. They left her hair long but did not comb it, let it hang tangled and wild. They shackled her wrists with heavy iron, her ankles too, a chain between her feet. Short, maybe 30 centimeters, enough to shuffle, not enough to stand properly, not enough to run. A guard told her the chain was designed this way on purpose. It would force her to kneel, to stay low, to be seen from above as small, powerless, broken. They led her through the tunnels, the same passages she had been dragged through 5 nights earlier. But now she was going up, toward light, toward noise. The sound of the crowd grew louder with each step. 50,000 voices, maybe more. A low roar like ocean waves rising and falling, anticipating. The heat intensified. The air changed, became dry and thick. They stopped at a heavy iron gate. Beyond it, blinding sunlight. Beyond that, the arena floor. A guard leaned close. He said, "When the gate opens, walk to the center. Kneel. Do not move. Do not speak." She asked what would happen then. He smiled. He said she would see. Everyone would see. That was the point. The gate began to open, metal scraping stone. The sound she would hear in nightmares for the rest of her life. Light poured through, scorching, merciless. Mariana stepped forward. The arena stretched before her. 400 meters of track, sand pale as bone under the summer sun. Above the stone seats rose in tiers. 50,000 faces, a wall of humanity, all looking down, all waiting. Mariana walked. The chains forced her into a shuffle. Each step short, awkward. Deliberate humiliation built into the metal. She reached the center, the exact middle of the track, where everyone could see, where no shadow would fall. She knelt. The sand burned. Immediately, through the thin fabric of her tunic, against her knees, her shins, her palms when she tried to brace herself. She looked up once. Just once. The crowd was a blur. Too many faces. Too much noise. Somewhere in those stands, people she had known her entire life were watching. Friends, neighbors, people who had smiled at her, bought from her father's shops, attended festivals with her family. Now they were part of this, complicit, witnessing. She dropped her head, focused on the sand in front of her, the grains, individual and countless. The noise swelled. People shouting to each other, not to her, about her. Fragments reached her ears. What did she do? Blue traitor, I heard, sleeping with a green. 10 minutes before she breaks, 20 says she screams. They were betting on her, on how long her dignity would last, on whether she would cry or beg or maintain silence. She tried to think of something to hold on to, some core of self that could not be taken. She thought of her mother singing. She thought of her father reading to her by lamplight. She thought of Alexios holding her face in his ink-stained hands. She held those memories like stones, small and hard. Something to grip. The crowd's noise changed. A surge. Excitement rippling through the stands. Behind her, metal scraped stone. A different gate, one she could not see. Voices shouted commands, sharp, urgent. There was the clatter of hooves. On stone first, then on sand. The crowd roared. Mariana tried to turn her head. The chain stopped her. She could only see peripherally. Movement, shadow, dust rising. Then she heard it breathe. Low, rough, animal, a bull. They had brought a bull into the arena. The crowd's chant started immediately. Rhythmic, primal. Let it loose. Let it loose. Let it loose. Mariana's breath came faster. Shallow gasps. Her hands shook against the chains. She could smell it before she saw it clearly. Animal musk, hay, manure. The smell of something powerful and alive. The bull walked slowly, deliberate steps. It was not wild, not charging. It was controlled. Handlers with ropes and poles guided it. They were taking their time. The bull entered her peripheral vision. Massive, black coat gleaming with sweat, curved horns like crescent moons, muscles rippling under skin. It moved toward her, step by step, 3 meters away, 2 meters, 1.5. The ground vibrated with each step. She could feel it through her knees, through her bones. The bull stopped directly behind her, close enough that she felt heat radiating from its body, close enough that she heard every breath, deep, heavy. the sound of power contained. Someone in the crowd shouted her name. Mocking. Cruel. Mariana the blue whore. Did she think love mattered more than blood? Did she think she could choose green over family? She closed her eyes, tried to disappear into herself. But the bull's presence was overwhelming, inescapable. She imagined the horns, sharp, curved, piercing her back, lifting her, breaking her, any second now, any second. The crowd leaned forward, hungry for the moment, for blood or screams or whatever spectacle was coming. High above in the shaded kathisma, Justinian watched with his court. He was not watching the bull. He was watching Mariana, waiting. Theodora sat beside him. She had seen this before, many times. She knew what they were looking for. Not death, not yet. They were looking for the moment when Mariana's back curved in defeat, when her head dropped not from choice but from broken will, when she stopped being a person and became a symbol, a warning. Minutes passed. They felt like hours to Mariana. The bull shifted its weight, snorted, shook its massive head, but did not move closer, did not retreat. The handlers held it perfectly positioned, close enough to terrify, not close enough to touch. This was the machine working exactly as designed, not killing her, breaking her. Mariana's shoulders shook. She could not stop them. Tremors running through her whole body. A small sound escaped her throat. Not quite a whimper. Not quite a word. The crowd heard it. The roar intensified. She was giving them what they wanted. Fear made visible. Dignity crumbling. The bull's breath was hot on her back. She could feel it through the thin fabric. Each exhale like a judgment. Her mind raced through possibilities. What if she stood? What if she ran? The chains would stop her after 2 steps. The handlers would release the bull. It would be over quickly. What if she screamed? What if she begged? Would they stop? Would they show mercy? No, this was not about mercy. This was about the message. She thought about Anna, about the 73 women paraded around this same track, about the Nika massacre, about Hypatia screaming as they took his sight. She thought about the machine, how it ran on fear, how it needed people like her, examples to keep everyone else in line. She was fuel, nothing more. The bull made a sound, low, almost like a question. Mariana realized she was crying, tears falling into the sand, darkening the pale grains. She had promised herself she would not cry, would not give them that satisfaction. But her body had other ideas. Fear was not something you could control with will alone. More time passed. The sun climbed higher. The heat became unbearable. Sweat mixed with tears. Sand stuck to her wet skin. Still the bull did not move. Still the handlers held it there. Still the crowd watched. This was the worst part. Anna had been right. Not the pain, not the physical torture, the waiting, the anticipation, the terror of not knowing when it would end or how. Then Mariana felt something shift inside her, something fundamental, like a wall collapsing. She stopped fighting, stopped trying to hold herself together, stopped trying to be brave. She just gave up. Her back curved, her head dropped. Not because she chose to, because she had nothing left to hold it up with. She became small, powerless, exactly what they wanted to see. In the imperial box, Justinian saw it. He nodded to an official. The official signaled. Below, the handlers received the sign. They began pulling the bull away. Using the ropes, the poles. The bull resisted at first. It had become interested in the kneeling figure, the strange stillness. But the handlers were strong, experienced. They guided it back across the sand. Toward the gate it had entered through. The sound of its hooves receded. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some laughed, relieved they had not witnessed something bloodier. Some jeered, disappointed. Some fell silent, disturbed by how effective the spectacle had been even without visible violence. Mariana did not move, could not, even after the bull was gone, even after the gate closed. She stayed kneeling, head down, back curved, broken. Guards approached, unlocked her chains. She could not stand. Her legs would not support her. They grabbed her arms, dragged her. Sand scraped against her legs as they pulled her across the arena floor. She did not look up, did not see the crowd, did not hear their voices anymore. Everything was distant, underwater, like she was watching from far away. They took her through a gate, into shadow, into coolness, back beneath the arena. She was thrown into a holding room. Not the cell, somewhere different. An official entered. He held a scroll. He read from it in a flat monotone. Mariana, daughter of Marcus Alexandros, convicted of treason against the Blue faction and conspiracy with green enemies, sentenced to confiscation of all property, erasure of family name from official records, exiled to the convent of Theotokos in Cappadocia, effective immediately. She would never return to Constantinople. Mariana barely heard the words. They washed over her like water. She managed one question. Her voice cracked and small. Alexios. The official looked at her. No pity in his eyes, just duty. The Green Architect was executed 2 days ago, buried in a common grave outside the city, so that part had been true. Mariana asked about her father. Disowned you before he died. Heart failure. The shame killed him. The official rolled up the scroll. Left. Mariana sat on the stone floor, numb, empty. Everything was gone. Everyone was dead or had abandoned her. Within 2 hours she was on a cart, heading south. 2 armed guards, no comforts, no explanations. The journey to Cappadocia took 2 weeks, across the Anatolian plateau, through summer heat that made the arena feel mild. Mariana was sick most of the way, infection from the burns on her knees, dehydration, shock. The guards did not care if she lived or died. Their orders said deliver to the convent. That was all. They gave her water when they stopped. Stale bread. Nothing more. She drifted in and out of fever dreams. Sometimes she was back in the arena. Sometimes she was with Alexios at the Hagia Sophia. Sometimes she was a child and her mother was singing. The dreams mixed with reality until she could not tell them apart. The convent appeared on the horizon one morning, carved into volcanic rock cliffs, surrounded by barren landscape. No trees, no water visible, just stone and sky. It had been built 2 centuries earlier, a place for women the empire wanted to disappear, political inconveniences, disgraced nobles, failed conspirators. They were not prisoners exactly. They could not leave, but they were fed, sheltered, allowed to pray and work and live out their days in silence, living tombs. That was what Anna had called places like this. The guards handed Mariana over to the nuns, turned their cart around, left without a word. The Mother Superior looked at Mariana, saw a broken girl barely able to stand, covered in infected burns and road dust. She said nothing, just led her inside. The convent was carved into the soft volcanic stone. Chambers and corridors cut directly from the rock, cool in summer, freezing in winter. Mariana was taken to a cell, given water, bread, a rough wool blanket. The Mother Superior said she would be called Sister Maria now. Her old name was gone. Her old life was gone. The rules were simple. Prayer 6 times daily, manual labor between prayers, silence except during designated speaking hours. No visitors, no letters, no connection to the outside world. This was her life now. Mariana, 23 years old, Sister Maria, exile. She would live here for 10 years. The days were identical. Wake before dawn, prayer, work in the garden or kitchen, prayer, midday meal, prayer, more work, prayer, evening meal, prayer, sleep. The other women in the convent had similar stories. Exiled for political reasons, for being connected to the wrong people, for choosing love over loyalty, for speaking when they should have stayed silent. Few of them talked much. Trauma had made them quiet. Mariana never fully recovered from the Hippodrome. The nightmares came every night. The bulls breathing, the crowd's noise, the sand burning her skin. She stopped eating some days. The nuns would force her, but she was wasting away slowly. Her body survived, but the part of her that had been Mariana died in that arena. Sister Maria was what remained. A shell, a ghost. The Mother Superior sent annual reports to Constantinople. Obedient, broken, no threat. That was all they wanted to know. In the summer of 547, when Mariana was 33 years old, she was found dead in her cell. The official report said natural causes, likely heart failure. The reality was probably slow starvation, or she had simply given up, the body following where the spirit had gone years earlier. She was buried in the convent cemetery, an unmarked grave. No ceremony beyond basic rites. Her brother Demetrius was still alive, still wealthy, still blue. He did not come to the funeral, did not send word, did not care. The empire had erased her. From records, from memory, from history. The convent records showed only this. Sister Maria, exile from Constantinople, arrived 537, died 547, buried Eastern Cliff Cemetery, grave unmarked, not even her real name. The Hippodrome of Constantinople still exists today. It is called Sultanahmet Square now, in Istanbul. Tourists walk there every day. They take photos of the three monuments still standing: the obelisk of Theodosius, the serpent column, the column of Constantine. They sit on benches where 50,000 once sat, where blood soaked into sand, where people screamed and died and were broken. Guidebooks mention chariot races, imperial ceremonies, the glory of Byzantium. Few mention the Nika massacre, the 73 women, the systematic torture, the machine. Archaeological digs occasionally find mass graves beneath the square, bones stacked in layers. Remnants of that January day, in 532, when Belisarius turned the Hippodrome into an abattoir. But most visitors do not think about that. They see ancient stones, history, a vanished empire. They do not see it for what it was, a machine designed to turn power into spectacle, to turn dissent into obedience, to turn human beings into warnings. The Byzantines saw themselves as civilized, educated, guardians of law and faith. They preserved Roman legal traditions, copied ancient texts, built churches that still stand today. And they did this. They killed 30,000 in a single day. They blinded emperors in public. They dragged bodies behind chariots. They stripped women of identity in front of crowds. They broke people like Mariana without ever laying another hand on them. That contradiction matters. It shows that civilization does not erase cruelty. It refines it, makes it efficient, calculated, strategic. The methods change, the locations change, the technology improves. But the pattern remains: public humiliation as political control, using spectacle to enforce obedience, turning individuals into examples. The Hippodrome is gone as a working arena. The last execution there happened over 500 years ago, when Constantinople fell to the Ottomans in 1453. But what it represented has not disappeared. Show trials, public confessions, cancel culture taken to extremes. The details vary. The principle does not. Find someone who stepped out of line, someone who chose wrong, someone who loved the wrong person or believed the wrong thing or stood in the wrong place. Make them visible. Make them an example. Make sure everyone watches. Break them not with violence necessarily, but with shame, with isolation, with the knowledge that 50,000 people are watching and not one will help. We think we are more civilized now. We think we have moved past this. We have just changed the arena. Mariana's story was lost for over 1,000 years. Her name appeared in no histories, no chronicles, no official records beyond those convent logs. But in the 1970s, historians researching Byzantine exile practices found something. Cross-referenced monastery records with court documents, with execution lists, with property confiscations. They pieced together what happened. A woman named Mariana, Blue Faction, arrested in 537, accused of conspiracy with a green architect named Alexios. Both innocent, both victims of factional politics and family betrayal. She was punished in the Hippodrome, exiled to Cappadocia, died at 33, erased. Her crime was loving across faction lines, refusing to let an innocent man die, choosing truth over loyalty. Her punishment was designed to warn other women. Stay in your place. Do not question. Do not choose love over blood. She was 23 when they broke her, 33 when she died. The Hippodrome took everything from her: her lover, her father, her family, her name, her future, her past. And that was the system working exactly as designed. This is what the machine does. It does not just kill bodies. It kills stories. It kills possibilities. It kills the memory of who someone was before they became an example. Mariana existed. She loved. She chose courage over safety. She tried to save someone, and for that she was destroyed. Not quickly, not cleanly, but thoroughly. The empire wanted her forgotten. For over 1,000 years they succeeded. But her story survived, in fragments, in records no one thought to destroy, in the stones of a convent carved into volcanic rock. It survived to remind us. The Hippodrome was not an aberration. It was not the work of a few cruel emperors or a particularly violent age. It was a system, carefully designed, efficiently run, widely accepted. And it worked because people watched, people participated, people went home and told others what they had seen. The machine ran on fear, but it was built by silence, by the thousands who sat in those stands and did nothing, who heard the screams and looked away, who saw the injustice and stayed quiet because speaking up meant becoming the next example. Mariana knelt in that sand, felt the bull's breath on her back, broke under the weight of 50,000 watching eyes, and not one person stood up. Not one person said this is wrong. Not one person helped. That is the real horror. Not the cruelty of emperors, but the complicity of crowds, the willingness to watch, to judge, to consume suffering as entertainment or justice or necessary evil. Mariana's body survived the arena, but the person she was died there, in the sand, in front of everyone, in silence, and that was always the point. The Hippodrome has fallen to ruins. The empire has crumbled to dust. The factions are gone. The chariots are gone. The crowds are gone, but the machine they built still exists, in different forms, under different names, with different technologies. Wherever power needs to be maintained through fear, wherever dissent needs to be crushed through spectacle, wherever someone needs to be made an example so others will stay silent, the machine is still running, and we are still watching. Mariana would want us to remember this. Not her suffering, not her humiliation, not her breaking, but the choice she made, to love across forbidden lines, to speak truth to her brother, to try to save an innocent man even when it cost her everything. She lost. The machine won, but she chose. And that choice mattered. Even if the empire erased her, even if history forgot her, even if she died alone in an unmarked grave, she chose. And in the end, that is all any of us can do. Choose what we stand for. Choose who we protect. Choose whether to speak or stay silent when we see injustice. The machine will always be there, waiting, ready to turn us into examples, to break us in front of crowds, to erase us from memory. But it only works if we let it, if we watch without helping, if we stay silent without speaking, if we choose safety over courage. Mariana did not choose safety, and for that she was destroyed. But she was not defeated, because her story survived, against all odds. Through all the centuries of erasure, it survived to ask us this question. What will you do when you see the machine at work? Will you watch or will you stand